So welcome back to Let's Have It Out. My guest tonight is Business Unity South Africa President Sipho Pityana. Sipho, I want to come back to you. I mean, you've committed in principle at least to minimum wage. You've committed in principle to a serious consideration of cuts in executive salaries.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask is Sipho Pityana speaking for Sipho Pityana or is he speaking for Business South Africa? I haven't heard many businessmen say what you've been saying.
No, well, leadership is about that, isn't it? It is about setting the tone. It is about raising the difficult issues. It is about forcing conversation on these issues. The conversation around executive pay is a conversation that has been going on for 3, 4, 5 years now amongst business leadership of different types. If I said to you that there was a consensus, I would be misleading. There is no mandate on how we deal with this. It's a conversation now that is beyond control of business leaders. It is right in conversation at NEDLEC as part of the negotiation around the job summit. But it's a discussion that we must have. Everybody accepts that it has to be dealt with.
One quick question I want to ask is land. Do you think, I mean, clearly 87% of land in white hands is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
It cannot create the kind of social peace we want.
Yeah.
Is business prepared to consider some level of redistribution so that we get a more equitable distribution of land in our society?
Well, business position on land is very clear that it is one of the manifestations of concentration in the economy that creates inefficiencies, that makes it difficult to have inclusive participation of previously marginalized, and that there's a great deal of scope and capacity to do that. In fact, sector-specific organizations like Agri-SA are at the forefront in wanting to propose what we need to do to fast-track redistribution of land and ensure that those who get it turn it into productive units. We consider land as a very important part of asset class that enables people to do a whole range of things that enable their entry and participation in the economy. The issue that is raised by business with regard to this is that if you're going to say we're going to amend the Constitution in order to effect a land expropriation without compensation, what are you fixing? Yeah. It's not an objection to the distribution of land. It's not an objection. In fact, business affirms the right of South Africans to land restitution as part of redress of the injustice of the past.
I think that clears it. We've got a caller on the line. We've got Eve from Boston on the line. Hi, Eve. What is your question or comment?
My question is, where are the unions in this country who were in the forefront of bringing down the economy and shutting down our industries? By now, the unions should have tons of money in their coffers. Also, where are the unions and where were the unions in the last 25 years when Marcus Jooste raped our country? Our members were paying their dues.
Eve,
I'd like to know where the unions are. When are they going to start helping us?
I've got your point. I understand it. I think Sipho got it. Sipho, it's a hard question. What do you say? How would you respond to Eve?
Well, I think that the notion that unions are a negative force in the economy is somewhat medieval. We see unions as very important partners. They've played an important role in setting an agenda for the development of this economy. We differ with them on certain issues, but they're a critical partner, and we've navigated difficult situations with them. We don't see them as a negative force that should be held to account for the difficulties that the economy is going through. So I don't know the point about Marcus Jooste, what that's about, but from the business point of view, the manifestation of what we've seen in the likes of the Marcus Jooste phenomenon and the corruption that has been so pervasive with other entities in the business.
You'll condemn that?
We've condemned that, and some of our affiliated business organizations have kicked those out of our organization because we've adopted an integrity pledge that enjoins all of business to conduct their businesses ethically and not to steal.
Okay, that's a good point. Let me just go to the social media. One of our viewers, Naren Singh on WhatsApp says, what do you think of the idea that it becomes compulsory for big business to invest a percentage of their profits to mentor and partner with the small business? There are places in many parts of the world where it's mandatory for big business to make an investment. If you're in Texas, for instance, the oil revenue in a portion goes into universities. What Naren is saying is, how about making it mandatory for big business to invest in small business? What do you think about that idea?
Well, we have a number of mandatory levies. One of those is the skills levy, and I have to say that it has been abused phenomenally. It's a fund which is supposed to target and address one of the biggest structural problems in our economy, shortage of skills. And that money is used for purposes other than that, and a lot of it is lost through corruption. The second one is through the broad-based Black economic empowerment initiatives. Businesses are expected to do two things. One is to set aside enterprise development funds to assist emerging entrepreneurs, and the other is to enable them to have access to selling their goods and services to big and established companies. We are at the forefront of driving that. We think that it provides a fantastic opportunity for growth of small and medium enterprises. You know, Adam, that most developed economies, the small and medium enterprises constitute about over 80%
That's right.
of your enterprises. In South Africa, it's 65%.
And we have
to drive that. We have to grow that. It creates an opportunity for inclusion of the marginalized.
Hold that thought. Let's go to an ad.